Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Dietitian Success Podcast, the business and marketing podcast for registered dietitians. If you are new here, I'm your host, Krista Kolajesic. I'm the founder of Dietitian Success Center. And today I'm welcoming an amazing guest and fellow entrepreneur, Shawna Melbourn. So Shawna, I'm going to do a little intro to you, and then I would love to just hear a little bit more about your business story and your career background. But Shawna, and sorry, I am like, one of my worst pregnancy symptoms is my out of breathness. So whenever I try to say a paragraph that's like longer than 2 sentences, I'll be huffing and puffing. So apologies for everyone listening. It's one of those funny side effects. Okay, so Shawna Melbourn is a non-diet registered dietitian. She's also an approved supervisor through the International Association for Eating Disorder Professionals and a certified intuitive eating counselor. So she comes to the table with almost 20 years of experience dedicating her career and her work to working with individuals with eating disorders. And so, funny enough, during her second maternity leave with her second son, Shawna decided to take her learnings and create her program, ED for RDs, which I know many of you listening have heard of this program. It's such an incredible program and has been around for a while, but it is really dedicated to helping registered dietitians and healthcare professionals build comfort and confidence working with this population group. Something that just is not covered enough in education and traditional dietetics training. So today, Shawna and I are going to talk about her business journey. And I want to hear, what it's looked like for you just running an online program and marketing yourself, and some of the challenges and some of the wins and all of those things that can exist at the same time when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. But first, would love to hear a little bit more about you, Shawna, from your own words. Tell us a bit about your dietitian background.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm always so thrilled to be able to chat with you, Krista, and be able to chat with your listeners as well. So thank you so much for having me. Okay, where do I start my business journey? Because I'm still on a business journey. I think it's one of those things that probably doesn't stop as we continue to shift some more as our market shifts and changes. It just doesn't seem to stop. The surprises and the things that we don't expect. But so like you said, I have actually, it'll be 20 years in the middle of June that I'll be a dietitian. So 20 years ago, we can think back 20 years ago, there wasn't any online programs then. And there certainly wasn't very many areas or ways in which we could learn about eating disorders. And unless you had part of your internship dedicated to eating disorders. And I know I did. I spent I think a week or two in an eating disorder program. And there's just no way that I would have been able to learn enough in 1 or 2 weeks. So I feel like I'm already jumping all over the place. But yeah, so 20 years ago, became a dietitian. And since then, it's just really been in eating disorders. There's been a couple of, wormholes that I went down. And I also continue to come back to eating disorders. And I was working at CHEO, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, for a couple of years. And that's when it got really, really concentrated in eating disorders. And I, throughout my journey, I really recognized that there just wasn't, as I mentioned, any area or ways in which I could get some extracurricular training. A lot of it was hands-on, a lot of it was trial and error, a lot of it was maybe talking to some psychologists here and there, but that's kind of how I learned. And even when I did reach out to more experienced dietitians to get some support, often I was met with, we'll just refer out. And I mean, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, I think we could have just relied on, we'll just refer out, but we can't do that anymore. Our resources are just stretched so tightly that we don't have, a dietitian just down the road that has an opening next week, or a psychologist that you can just step right into their office and start training or treatment with. So we don't have that any longer. So the statement of just refer out, it's not okay. And then the other layer to that is that I really wanted to learn. I really wanted to get better. This was an area that I just felt deeply pulled to, and it's very near and dear to my heart. And I wanted to learn more so that I could specialize in this area. So then fast forward to the time where I was on maternity leave with my second child. And I just thought, okay, I don't want to just go back to private practice. I did go back to private practice, and I certainly enjoy it, but I wanted to do more. And because I would get dietitians that were calling me and say, can you help me with this case? And yes, absolutely. But there's so many other dietitians, of course, out there that maybe didn't know how to reach out to help because they didn't know that there was a more experienced dietitian just at the end of a phone call, right? So that's when I decided to develop ED for RDs, eating disorder education for registered dietitians. And this is when my second son, was like 4 months old. I decided to make an online course. I had no idea what I was doing. Online courses were still in its infancy. It was not a very well known or well used way of teaching, but I decided, yep, this is just what I'm going to do. I thought it would just be kind of a side gig, a way of just diversifying the way that I was practicing and working, and a way to reach some dietitians. And it has grown to not my side gig any longer. In fact, my private practice has shrunk. I still run a private practice, but that has very much shrunk. And I put most of my effort and my time into ED for RDs. And we have been, so it's been 8 years since I started it. And we have reached dietitians from all around the world, which is, it's very exciting for me to, when I look into my website and see where everybody is coming from. We started off with the majority of people coming from Canada, because I am Canadian, and then here in Ottawa. And now I would say it's like we're still mostly Canadian, but now we get equal amount of dietitians from the US, and then lots of dietitians from all around the world.
Mm-hmm. That's so amazing. And just, I really love how you told that story around the just refer out piece and how that's not appropriate guidance anymore, because I vividly remember that even from my own practice, starting out as a dietitian 7 years ago. And no matter what area of practice you work in, I think that eating disorders and disordered eating will inevitably come into play, really. And I remember feeling so isolated and just feeling so unprepared for that area of practice. And that was even, I think there are so many more private practice dietitians out there now that are working in disordered eating that can be referred to. But at the time, like even 7 years ago, it was not like that.
It was not like that. To me, it felt like a secret society.
Yeah.
We just couldn't get into. And I just didn't think, like, why is that? And very much appreciate that it was a way of protecting clients and the individuals that other healthcare providers were working with. And I very much appreciate that. And also, skills do need to be developed for all dietitians who work with humans. Mm-hmm. That it's almost guaranteed that any dietitian working with humans will be seeing somebody living with an eating disorder or disordered eating that is severe enough that will impact their livability and their psychosocial aspects of their livability.
Do you remember how you bridged that education gap for yourself? Do you remember just that process of, because I know you mentioned it having a short placement in that area, but how, like, where did you find those resources?
So at the very beginning, a lot of what I learned was unfortunately trial and error.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I know I did harm. There's no doubt that I did. And I know I made big mistakes. And unfortunately, and I learned from them. So a
Yeah.
lot of it was trial and error, and that's not okay.
Yeah.
I don't wish that upon any dietitian or any client that us dietitians are working with. That's not fair. It does us a major disservice. And of course, it does our clients an even bigger disservice. So unfortunately, that's where a lot of my learning came from. Then when I landed a job at Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario at CHEO, that's where my skills were really developed because I had weekly supervision with one of our lead psychologists. But even at that time, I didn't know how to use supervision. I didn't know the questions to ask because I didn't know what I didn't know. And it was just myself and the psychologist. And there is something to be said from learning from a psychologist, but
Mhm.
also a dietitian within our own
Yeah.
career choice.
Hmm.
So that was difficult to get to find and hone in on. There was a more skilled dietitian that was there and learned a considerable amount from this more skilled dietitian. And but when you're kind of in this like one way of approaching eating disorders, kind of puts you in a bit of narrow hallway and
Mm.
because there's so many other ways of treating eating disorders. And so I kind of learned one way. And then when I stopped working at CHEO, that's when I started to learn that, wow, okay, there are other ways of treating eating disorders and different philosophies, certainly based on research and just different research that I was exposed to. So all that to say, it was CHEO working at the Children's Hospital that sort of really got me going with a lot of my skills. And then at that time, I felt like that there was just more available compared to 20 years ago. And then that kind of got rolling. Like there were more books that were being developed. There were more just ways of getting in touch with more skilled practitioners. And so that got my learning ball rolling. And then it was still trial and error, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I stopped working at CHEO, then I got on board with another private practice that also specialized in eating disorders. And again, that was a really great way of honing in on treating eating disorders in the community, which is quite different than how one would treat eating disorders in more of a hospital setting.
Mm.
So it was kind of, it was like patchwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first of all, I just so appreciate your honesty in talking about that trial and error story, because I think a lot of dietitians would be too afraid to admit that, but have been in that exact same position. I think most dietitians actually have been in that exact same position, whether it's eating disorders or whether it's another area of practice. So I so appreciate that.
Oh, and my
Yeah.
heart goes out to anybody who's
Yeah.
in that position because it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good for us, and it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good for our clients either.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to hear a little bit more about your philosophy around eating disorder treatment and kind of how you teach dietitians, or what the framework is that you use to teach dietitians. And then I would love to talk a little bit more about the business side of things.
Yeah, for sure. So over the years, we developed our pillars of care. And these are the pillars that we really stick close to, not only in ED for RDs, but I've borrowed a lot of them and brought them over to my private practice. So that if I see one person versus another person, they can expect the same kind of care and same kind of approach. Just the same way as if I see one dietitian and I see a different dietitian, again, that they're going to receive fairly similar. I mean, obviously there's going to be lots of nuances, but everybody can expect to receive things like deep, compassionate care. So whether I am working with a dietitian or an individual living with an eating disorder, our philosophy or where we come from, it's deeply rooted in compassionate care, which means that we're spending a lot of time. When I say we, what I really mean is me, because I'm the only one. It's myself and Alex, who's my incredible office admin. So it's really just the two of us that run ED for RDs. So when I say we, that's really what I mean.
Every business owner does that. Hey, even if it's just you, even if you didn't have your assistant, you'd probably still say we.
Yes.
It's funny, hey?
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting because it isn't just me. It's also all the dietitians
exactly.
that I
Yeah,
work with
totally.
and bring it in and teach and that kind of stuff. So, so the deep compassionate care means that I am really listening to that dietitian's story. I really want to hear where they're coming from, what it feels like to feel stuck in a situation, what comes up for them. What makes this particular situation different from another situation? What kind of skills are they coming to the table with? What is this human coming to the table with? And that is so important in a supervision setting, and as well as the programs that I teach. We have lots of questionnaires that go out every time somebody signs up for one of our programs, because I really want to appreciate just where that dietitian is coming from. The other thing that I'm really all about is an emotions forward approach. So meaning that it isn't just about learning how to educate somebody about the physical consequences, emotional consequences of living with an eating disorder, because if education would work alone, we would have a much different, I guess, quote unquote, success rate when it comes to recovery. And unfortunately, we don't have great success rates in terms of recovery. So I really teach an emotions forward approach, coming from a skill called emotion coaching. And there's various other elements and other therapeutic modalities that I teach, but it's very much from an emotions forward approach. And this is an area where us dietitians, we didn't learn this in school, and it can feel really uncomfortable and even backwards, because we think, well, maybe if I could just give them a handout or a resource or something to watch, perhaps that might change their mind. And eating disorders don't come from a logical place. They come from an emotional place. And so we can switch our skills-based brain as clinicians onto more of that emotion forward approach. We have a much better connection with the individuals that we work with. So that's deeply rooted into our approach as well. Another thing that's really rooted into our approach, my approach, I guess, is an individualized approach to care. Now, that sounds like, well, of course, Shawna, of course we would do individualized care. It's just not a very popular approach with eating disorders, especially in a institutional care. A lot of the times we see kind of a one-size-fits-all approach, and it just doesn't work. So if a dietitian is working in an institution versus outpatient, just challenging kind of the traditional way in which we treat eating disorders. So for instance, helping a dietitian to help their client to come up with what is their definition of recovery. A definition of recovery does not have to mean absence of eating disorder symptoms. It might be, and that might be exactly where their client could end up. Some people do. and they just like never look back. Where some individuals living with parts of their eating disorder, because an eating disorder is way more than just a way of coping, it's also a way of survival for a lot of our clients. And so could that person still live with parts of their eating disorder and still live a beautiful and fulfilled life? And the answer to that is absolutely, because somebody can still live with a chronic disease and still be quote unquote healthy. Many definitions of health. So challenging our traditional approaches to eating disorder care and not viewing recovery as kind of this one-dimensional definition, but rather it's defined by the individual client. Believing in the power of families as well. So yes, of course, there's times where families, they aren't going to be safe, but there are going to be times where families can be the best ally for and with helping their loved one to get better. So believing in that power. Another thing that we also really focus on is empowering dietitians. This is also a really big one too, because there's something, I don't know, I can speak of my own experience here for a second, that when I was in my internship, it was like that there was this hierarchy. That the doctor and psychiatrists were kind of up here, up wherever. And then we kind of go down the rungs, and then dietitians were down here somewhere. And I don't think that we need to carry on that culture. We can be the dietitians that break out of that culture. And we have an incredible skill set that can detect eating disorders. We can assess eating disorders. We can't diagnose, but our findings, our clinical findings, is incredibly impactful and powerful to help our clients to get care. And that's not always recognized. So that's something to really hone in on, or what are the skills that this dietitian has that we can, I guess, for lack of better words, capitalize. And so that we can, empower that person to help their client to get care. So those were, I would say, are probably like the basics. I could go on and on about some other ways in which we really support dietitians.
Wow, that was fascinating. I mean, I obviously don't even work in this area, but I was just riveted hearing your perspective on that. And I think that's so, particularly the piece around empowering dietitians. I know I always, when I hear that, I connect with that a lot. I think that that's even a symptom that comes from within our profession too, even with the messaging around just refer out, just, whatever, pass it off to somebody else. It's also sort of inherently, feeding the narrative that like dietitians can't figure it out themselves.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I want to hear a little bit more about because I know there's a lot of people listening and on the call here who are very much interested in the idea of having some sort of a program or an online course. So I want to hear a little bit about what that first, just from a business perspective, like what did that first iteration of your online course look like back in the day? Because that was kind of the origin time of online courses, really. Like it was, I remember learning about online courses probably around the same time. And they were still in their very early days. I think the tech was probably pretty limited compared to what it is now.
Yes.
So I want to know about that first iteration. Like what did it look like? What did you offer? How did you create it? Even get into the nitty-gritty around like what tech did you use?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes. If you can remember.
And I kind of chuckled when you said, okay, what did it look like when you first started? Because it was nothing like what it is today. And it was just so, I don't even have a word for it, but yeah, so I'll get into it and describe what it was like. So I had no idea what I was doing. I could use a computer enough to check my email. And that's about it. So to develop a web page and landing pages, I didn't even know what a landing page was. I didn't know what opt-in and opt-out meant. Like I was just completely lost. Somehow got it together enough that I developed a 3-month program with 3 live Q&A sessions using Zoom. No idea how to use Zoom, but here we go. I sold 80 spots. I sold it for $197 Canadian. And it was a little over 80 spots. And I sold the course before it was even completed. I ran a webinar through Google somehow. I was teamed up with Stephanie Claremont a little bit during that time. So she was able to help me out, but I was just completely lost. Like I don't know what I'm doing. So I developed this webinar and then sold, like I said, a little over 80 spots, started the program May 24th. I remember the date, and let everybody into the program. Like I said, it was a 3-month program. And at the end of the 3-month program, oh, and by the way, there were 6 modules. It was like 12 hours of content in a 3-month program. At the end, we sent out a whole bunch of participant feedback surveys, and one of the participants wrote back and said, "I have no idea why this program is only 3 months." So I took that to heart, and I thought, "You're right. I know why it was a 3-month program." So to run the program, we used Zoom. I had a WordPress website. I used basic PowerPoint for my slides that were like really visually not nice to look at. And then to actually run the program, I can't remember what we used at that time. I don't remember. I do remember checking out Thinkific at that time. And it was very new on the market, and it just did not work. I couldn't figure it out. It was just not working. So I actually wrote them and I said, "I don't like this program. Can you please give me my money back?" So they did. They were really nice about it, getting my money back. That was at the time when you could actually email like the founder of the company. Not so much anymore. So after that, then we changed the program into a 6-month program. I ran the modules through what I think was Thinkific. We're still using Thinkific today. We have tried out different LMS, but we've just gone back to Thinkific. It's Canadian, which I really like. To me, it feels intuitive. It's just kind of an all-in-one system, and so we've just kind of stuck with that. We still use Zoom. We did use for our email system, I think we used MailChimp at that time. MailChimp was still in its infancy as well, so it was very affordable. It was great. And then it became just way too expensive for us to hold on to. So now we use ConvertKit. Okay, so going back to the 6-month program. So tried that out for 2 cohorts. And again, people just weren't able to finish the course, only having 6 months to access to the course content. It just didn't feel right for me. So then we moved to a 1-year program, and that fit better. And still people weren't able to continue finish the program during that time. And so then we changed to, okay, you have a year to access the pre-recorded material. Then we ended up going from monthly live calls to weekly live calls. And I did that all for about 4 years, actually, all through COVID, because everything just kind of exploded over COVID, especially for eating disorder training, because just the numbers of people that were developing an eating disorder just went through the roof. So there was a lot of healthcare providers that were just scrambling, trying to get the training. So anyways, I went to weekly live calls. Just this year, just this spring, we have gone back down to monthly because weekly live calls is pretty difficult. It wasn't sustainable for me to continue. So there has been lots of ups and downs throughout the years in terms of like, how much money am I going to make? How many people are going to come into this program? Is this even worth it? What am I doing? This is so stressful. To then feeling, oh my gosh, this is such a gift. And I absolutely thoroughly enjoy working with other dietitians. This fulfills my heart. Like, it just feels really good, to then going off and feeling, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really scared. Is this really right for me to do? So a lot of emotion, kind of this big emotional roller coaster throughout the years. So again, going back to when I first developed the program, I remember my husband would give us my baby to feed as I'm typing away, creating this program, because I sold all these spots and I didn't have a program. So I was madly just trying to get this program going and working hours and hours and hours. And then I would like finish feeding my baby and give it back to my husband. And then just like, hours and hours. So I don't recommend doing that. You don't have to. You can sell a program before you actually have the program developed. I have done that lots, and that does work. You can do that. And also consider the other things that are going on in your life when you think about developing a program. I didn't do that, and now I do. So there is one thing that I use to, it's kind of like first in, first out, or last in, first out kind of method, that I don't do it as deliberately any longer, but I had a Trello cards. You know, Trello, and you have all these cards.
Yeah, I've heard of Trello, but for those that are on the call that don't know about it.
Yeah, so Trello is an app, and I had it on my phone, and you can have these cards and you can move them around and you can kind of play with these cards. It's like a vision board. And on Trello, I had my life vision board. All of the things that were going on in my life got a card. If I was developing a course, if we got a new puppy, if my son was sick, if, I don't know, something happened, or I have a car payment, whatever it was, it got allotted a card. And if I wanted to take on a new project of whatever it was, then I needed to remove a card. So I always stuck with, I can't remember, it was like 20 cards or something. And I stuck with it. And that helped me to get back to, right, I don't have time and I don't have the bandwidth to develop this particular thing. I'll have to wait until one card can be taken off my vision board.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, to sell 80 spots of your first program, that would have been, I can imagine that probably felt pretty overwhelming too. As amazing as that is, to have that many people purchase the thing you're selling the first time, that's incredible. But I can imagine that was probably also attached with some other feelings.
Yes, I was like, do I really know?
Especially dietitians, right? Other dietitians.
Other dietitians. And some of them were dietitians that I really looked up to.
Yeah, right.
And
totally.
I was not expecting that. I wasn't expecting to doubt myself so much at that time and think, oh my gosh, I am teaching these dietitians some things. And what if it's wrong? Yeah. What if it doesn't jive with them? What if they give me a bad review? What? I learned how to process that throughout the years, and it certainly has taken me a while to work through that and to know what to do if somebody isn't happy, or if I don't feel prepared enough to teach somebody something, if I'm self-doubting.
How do you prepare for that? Or how do you coach yourself through those fears around disappointing people? Or what if somebody gives me a bad review? Or what if this isn't enough for people?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a few things that I do. I think one of them is really reminding myself that it's okay if people are upset. There's most likely things that are going on in that other dietitian's life that I don't know about, and it's okay that I don't know about it. And there's a real reason why this person is upset or not content or disliked something. And I think what so I remind myself of that we're all human, and everybody is entitled, of course, to their own opinions. And this is really real and true to that person. So I make sure that I really honor that. The other thing that I do is I really talk to that individual, like, oh my gosh, I'm just so sorry that maybe you're really angry about this particular thing. I can so see why you would be angry, because this could have led you to feel this way, or that could, just coming up with I guess what I'm getting at is coming up with a framework in terms of how to respond to somebody who is upset. Something that really feels, and I know it's not about me, but feeling really real and true to me in terms of how I would want to be treated. And then I will really try my best to figure out how we could reconcile whatever that person is upset with. And that's the way that I would like to be treated. And that tends to help me to get through if somebody isn't happy with something. So the other thing that, if I'm second guessing myself, if I'm not prepared for something, if somebody asks me a question and I think, oh my gosh, I should really know the answer to this, and why don't I know the answer to this, and second guessing my skills, I have gotten really a lot better at it. I won't say that I am skilled, like a master of any of these things, but I will say that I've become a lot better at saying, that's an excellent question, and I don't know right now. I know that probably seems obvious to most of us, and we're probably like, well, yes, of course, you're not supposed to know everything. And yes, all of that is true. And when you're in the moment, it can leave you feeling like, well, should I know this? How come I don't know that? I teach eating disorders. Shouldn't I know all of these things? And it is okay if we don't know. And the beautiful thing about texting or emails or, having, I guess, constant contact with other people in the world is that if you don't know, you can always get back to that individual or suggest, how about we, I don't know, talk to so-and-so about this, or if there's somebody on the call that I know is really skilled in this particular area, I'll bring them into the conversation, which again goes back to really knowing each of the dietitians that come into the program.
And it's okay not to know, even if somebody's paying you for something.
Yes.
Because that comes with a whole other realm of emotions and feelings and thoughts around what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to show up. That can be a big stumbling block for a lot of dietitians, I know, for sure, feeling like they have to have the perfect solution because somebody's paying them. And I really like that you spoke to just how your program's been so iterative over the years. And I think that that's such an important piece, that the first thing you release is not going to be the right thing. It's just not, quite frankly. Like, it's just, the structure is not going to be right. The content's going to be off. There's going to be things that you're like, oh my gosh, I would do this completely differently. And you can. That's the great thing about this world and having a program is you can do it completely differently, and you can evolve it over the next 8+ years to be what it's supposed to be.
100%. Yes. Because we're also going to be better teachers. How I taught years ago is not how I teach now.
Oh yeah.
You get just much better at the common questions that are going to be asked. You start to develop, just some narratives around just certain topics that come up. You get better at delivering that information in a more tangible, useful way to your course participants. And so the way that I kind of look at it is that, of course, your course is going to change. It makes sense because you're going to evolve, and so could your course. We just this spring launched ED for Arties Essentials, which is a rebrand of our signature course, which was called ED for Arties 1 Year Training. And we just rebranded it, redid it, and it still has some of the same content, but it's delivered very, very differently.
How is that different?
It's different in a way that the information being taught in each one of the modules is a lot more succinct.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more succinct. I have broken down some of the most important points, and that answer the questions that I know that the course participants will be asking or will be thinking in their mind. Because of the 8 years that I've had under my belt teaching, I already have a really good idea of what dietitians want to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we are, instead of delivering this course to all dietitians and all skill level, we're really honing in on more beginner to maybe intermediate level. And then we have other things for more of the advanced learners. That's another thing that we've done.
Yeah, I think that's it's such an interesting piece, because I listen to a lot of different podcasts and stuff about just the online business world and online education. And one thread that is so consistent is how challenging it can be to get people who have purchased a course or some sort of online training or learning to actually do that thing, right? To take that course, to follow through with it, to do it from start to finish. You were commenting before just around how that 3 months never seemed like enough time. And then 6 months, maybe never seemed like enough time, right? No matter how much time you give people, sometimes there's just this barrier that gets in the way of finishing that course. And as course creators and people who are creating online education, that is our biggest desire, right? Is for people to do the thing that they have purchased, because we want that ultimately. And I was thinking about, as you were talking, even myself, like I purchased a Facebook ads course probably 3 years ago. And it was this big, long, in-depth course. And I was like, yes, this is great. This is going to have everything that I need. And then I sat on it for 2.5 years, up until a month ago, pretty much, when they released a condensed version. So like you're saying with your essentials, right? They took everything and they kind of squeezed out all, they extracted only the most important information. And it was so much easier for me and so much more accessible for me to just do.
Yes.
And so I think it's also just rethinking about how we teach and how we train, and setting people up for success in that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. And we also moved from monthly Q&A calls weekly Q&A calls
Weekly to monthly.
monthly.
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
we added an AI bot
So cool.
to supplement any questions that participants may have. And it's like everything that this AI bot is built, it's only built upon the course information. So it's like having, I guess, me, which sounds a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
It's like
but the reality of where we are right now. Yeah.
I'm a robot, turn myself into a robot,
Yeah.
and they have access to those questions. So that's another way of just, condensing the information.
Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about, I want to talk a bit about marketing and just what has worked for you and what has not worked for you.
Oh, I kind of stall there for a second, because I think, I don't even know where to begin with the marketing. So my sister is a marketer. I guess she went to school to become a marketer. So I often talk to her about marketing and what has worked and what hasn't. And for me, it has felt like giving things a chance and giving things a try, and not, I'll say, not being afraid, but I fully admit that I am, to give things a try if I'm thinking maybe differently about marketing, or putting this kind of post out on social media, or sending this kind of email out, or, do I charge for this? Do I not charge for that? A lot of it is still trial and error for me, even 8 years into it. And what works, what quote unquote works today, it may not have worked 6 months ago. But
true.
What didn't work 6 months ago may work today. So there are times where I did feel like it was like throwing spaghetti at the wall. I didn't know if it was going to stick or not. The one thing that Alex and I have done a good job of is tracking numbers. And that's something that we're getting better at looking at and analyzing is, okay, well, when we charged for this, not many people signed up for it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, totally.
yeah. And why was that? Oh, it was because we were only marketing to a very small number of people. So let's grow this list and we'll probably have a better chance at having that spaghetti stick on the wall. Last time we didn't charge for that, and look at how many people signed up for it. Perhaps we try that again. So it's running a course for 8 years or having a business like this for 8 years. You do have that data, but it's only in the last, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 years that Alex and I have actually started to track the data. The things that I have, I guess, found quite helpful in bringing people in and getting to know me so that they can know, like, trust by that process. And we really keep that at heart because, of course, nobody's going to purchase from me if they don't know me. That makes sense. I would do the same thing. The things that I guess have worked is offering free things. And that's actually part of our pillars of care anyways, is having things that are accessible. One thing that we know is that not all dietitians can afford extracurricular training. So I want to make sure that not only do we provide free things just to, hey, we're doing this really cool, fun, free thing, and I think you'll like it, but also, hey, we're offering you this free thing because I know not everybody's going to be able to afford some of the more higher paying items. So that's one thing that I really love doing, and it's within our core pillars, and it's part of the way that we work anyways, making things accessible. So I guess you could say, giving things away for free. So we've done all kinds of things like webinars. We think of webinars. We're going to, just in the next week or two, we're getting ready to launch our 3-part learning series that we've had for free in previous years. And I really enjoy doing this. So it's just pre-recorded 3 modules, and then we do a free Q&A, and it's all for free. And all about just eating disorders. And I go through our 8 principles of nutrition rehabilitation. And it's a really great way of just getting people in and offering some free things. I've done a 6-month, now at the end of this, I thought, oh boy, 6 months is a long time. I don't think I needed to do it for this long. But we did do a 6-month free supervision series. Yeah. So people signed up for the 6
incredibly valuable
months of free supervision. And it was more, well, I would say that it was more like a Q&A session rather than a supervision session.
Sure.
So we've done that. We have lots of freebies on our website. So just offering these free things. I know it can feel like, oh my gosh, well, I just don't want to offer for everything for free. And I agree with that. And also it is a way of bringing people in to know you. And I think it's much different doing like a PDF for free versus something where you're actually talking. Where people can feel your energy and the way that you talk and how you deliver things and the tone of your voice and body language, all of that really, really matters. So I would say those things are very, very helpful for us. We don't spend a whole lot of money on marketing. So I think we spend maybe a couple of $1,000 a year on marketing. We really don't spend a whole lot. We use a lot of social media, but we use a lot of these free avenues to try and bring people in and that they know, so that they can get to know us.
And I can imagine word of mouth is probably a big one for you guys too.
It is. Yeah. I'm glad that you said that too, because after 8 years of doing this, that word of mouth is so anytime somebody signs up for one of our programs, we have a thing at the bottom of the registration form saying, how did you hear about us? We track that. And word of mouth, I would say, is one of the biggest reasons why people end up buying into the courses.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of the most powerful because it comes with that inherent sort of trust, right? Of, oh, I know somebody who I trust who did this thing and they really liked it or whatever. So I love a word of mouth marketing tactic. It's the best.
It is.
And so just to wrap up here, and for those who are listening on the call, feel free to start thinking about any questions that you have and post them in the chat. But while you're doing that, what advice do you have for dietitian entrepreneurs?
Oh, so much, so much. You have the power and you have the knowledge and you have this incredible expertise in what you want to put out there. And I can so appreciate how you might go from a place of feeling doubtful, unsure, to a place of like, yes, let's get this going. and it's okay to have that roller coaster of emotions. I think when we're kind of self-doubting and thinking, oh, am I really right for this? There's a reason why we end up thinking that way, which for me personally, it has allowed me to think of just different ways of how I can show up with more confidence. And so if we can think of our, self-doubt as a way of like, oh, is this really right? It kind of prepares us for getting better in what and how we want to deliver that information or market or put ourselves out there. The other thing is, I know it sounds so like, everybody says this, but not be afraid of putting things out there into the world, but also know that you probably are going to be afraid. And both of those two things can exist at the same time. And it's really normal to feel like on one hand, you're like, yes, I got this out there. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to see if the spaghetti sticks to the wall. And then also feel like, oh my gosh, why is this not sticking to the wall? Why is this not working? I shouldn't have done this. Why isn't this happening? And those two things can happen at the same time.
Yeah. So where can the audience find out more about you and your work?
I'm on Instagram. They can follow me on Instagram, and we're at EDFORRDS, so ED for RDs. I have a website, edforrds.com. I'm on Facebook, Shawna Melbourn. I think it's Shawna Melbourn Registered Dietitian. I think so. I'm also on LinkedIn, and you can always email me, info@edforrds.com.
Awesome. We will link to all of those in the description of this episode. It's been so great to have you, Shawna. Thank you so much for being so generous with your information and your time and with your learnings. I think we all just learn the most from people who have done the things that we aspire to do. So thank you so much for sharing that. And it's just been so great to get to know you, so great to chat with you. Maria has dropped the link for your Instagram and for your website in the chat for anybody who wants to check that out. So this episode will come out on our podcasting platforms on Thursday.
Yay. Very
awesome.
good.
So thanks, Shawna. It was so good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, and for all that you do for us dietitians and helping to elevate our profession for us to be able to do better and have the information. Thank you so much